I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for the Pottstown Borough Council for February 7, 2024. Would you rise for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge to the flag? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Chief Markovich, I think we have something good to do tonight. Tonight, we're going to appoint to the rank of Corporal Stephen A. Deese. This appointee will therefore carefully and diligently discharge the duties of the grade to which appointed by doing and performing all manners of things thereunto pertaining. And we do strictly charge and require all persons of lesser grade to render obedience to the appropriate orders. And this appointee is to observe and follow such orders and directions as may be given from time to time by superiors, acting according to the rules and regulations governing the discipline of the police department, Pottstown Police Department. Given under our hand and seal of this corporation at headquarters, Pottstown Police Department, the 7th day of February, 2024, in the year of our Lord, signed by our Mayor, Stephanie Henrick, and myself as Borough Council President, Dan Wind. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, brother.
That's all right. We
Sorry,
always say
man.
that. Okay. Happens every time.
Yeah, we gotta come back. Yeah, if you do that next.
Oh. And that's the chief.
No,
Oh, you're doing
he's
this.
retiring. He's not here.
Oh, he's not here. All right.
No.
Okay. We have one more presentation at this time from our borough manager, Justin Keller.
Yes, so looks like we're having another one leave the flock.
Oh.
Unfortunately, Rodney wasn't able to make it here tonight, but I do want to congratulate him on his 33 years of dedicated service to the borough of Pottstown. He's been here since 1990. He's been in different capacities, including public works maintenance electrician and facilities maintenance technician, and then finally as the electrical instrumentation technician in the utilities department. So we wish Rodney McMichael a happy and healthy retirement, and good luck with all his future endeavors.
Very good. Okay, under the subcommittee reports, infrastructure, Counselor Lebedinsky.
It's in your packet.
Got it. And transportation, Counselor Proskal.
It was not a meeting.
All right, got it. Efficient Methods Committee, Counselor Lebedinsky.
We
We did meet. We did meet.
Yeah, we did meet. We were basically looking to reevaluate and kind of go through some of the old departments to see what departments needed to be improved or re-improved. So we'll be coming up with a schedule on that. That's really about it. We have had updates with the ACH and the vendor supply setup, direct pay, streamlining our info on the express bill pay and the billing info. We're going to, like I said, we're going to go back to probably LNI and start working with them again to see how what else we can do to help them as well. We're looking at the IT service request going live very, very soon, if not already. I know we're on a beta right now, right, Justin?
Yes, so actually, the service requests for L&I are now active online, so anybody that has a property concern, maintenance concern, they can feel free to reach out through our online system, so that's added in addition to the items that you can report for Public Works.
That was about it.
Very good. The Ordinance Review Committee, I think you did meet, Counselor
Yes, we did.
Proskal.
We actually discussed a variety of things, but probably most importantly be the sign ordinances. We discussed licensing and regulation of skill games, and then get sober living homes, which is for your consideration this evening.
Very good. Emergency Services, Chief Hand?
Good evening, everyone. My report is also in the agenda, but tonight I'd like to introduce a couple of our emergency responders, and then we have a guest that wants to speak to us. So first we have firefighter EMT Mark Gibson, and come on up, Mark, you're next to me. And then firefighter Taylor Smith, not Taylor Swift, Smith. So come on up. So, and two other people couldn't be here tonight was EMT Sybil Sheet and also paramedic Peter Macaluso. Tonight we had a request from a resident that wanted to thank us for our services and come up and report during the Emergency Service Committee. Mr. Williams, would you like to come up?
Not easy. Most of you are used to seeing me in a different capacity for over 25 years since I retired from the Navy. I've dedicated myself to supporting this community. I'm sorry. On November 27th, just before Thanksgiving, I thought I'd take it upon myself to jump up on top of my roof and clear out the leaves from my gutters. I have 3 levels of roofing. The 3rd level is an extreme pitch, but my macho is whatever it is. I decided, since I can't stand on that pitch, I would crawl and try to clean the roof off with my leaf blower. The next thing I remembered after doing that was my wife overlooking me at ICU in Delaware Health, Reading. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I broke almost all the bones on my body. My skull fractured and my brain shifted a little bit. I spent 5 weeks in Tower Health, Reading. I don't want to say anything nice about Tower Health, but they have a lot of young people there who are trying really hard to keep the pace. If it wasn't for my wife, She heard the noise as I collapsed, as I fell from the roof to the sidewalk, face down. She immediately thought of calling emergency EMTs, and apparently within minutes, first person coming through my gate was Mark Gibson. My wife's words were, he looked at me and said, "I know this man." I owe my life to my wife and to Mark, because he took over immediately and told the crew what to do. The picture I saw of myself that my wife had the sense to take at that time were hoses sticking out of various parts of my body. The only thing missing was a fire hose. And I have our emergency personnel to thank for their quick-handedness in taking care of me and getting me to the most appropriate place. And I'm back. And I am working hard I could not walk for a number of weeks. And I've made a commitment to walk, to do the things that I do. But my wife says no ladders and no roofs. I encourage anybody thinking about jumping up on their roof to do the job that somebody professionally could do, no, don't do it. I'm in pain a lot. I'm taking a lot of medication, but I'm going to be back. We're going to have powwow on May 4th and 5th. We're going to go forward with my indigenous development. We're raising funds to take care of Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And I was going to wear my Go Forth t-shirt today because we are going to have an incredible 4th of July. I've been talking to the folks who do the parade, the Rotary Club. They're anxious to get it going here. And the memorial, the Indian Memorial on Industrial Highway in Franklin Street, folks from the Rotary Club are going to work with me to improve that, to create a sitting spot. But if it wasn't for these gentlemen, Mark I know from way back when, and I've always appreciated him. He's been there whenever he's been needed, but this community only grows with our emergency response groups. I mean, I'm sorry that we don't have the old Pottstown Hospital because I think we had more resources there instead of having to drive me to Reading. But that's not for me to say. Thank you, Pottstown.
So, real quick in closing, this was an effort by the fire department, the paramedics, and the police to be there right away. And every month I give you guys reports that just have numbers, but this is what we deal with every day in the city. And I hope you guys can appreciate what us as emergency responders, police, fire, and EMS do for the borough. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It's been an emotional evening already.
From Human Relations, Ms. Levengood, welcome.
Good evening, councilors and councilor president. February is Black History Month.
Whoop, whoop.
That's
Yes.
where we honor the incredible contributions of the Black community
Amen.
has made throughout the United States
Yes.
history, from civil rights leaders to artists, politicians, and inventors. We celebrate Black history from the past to the present. Remember your Valentine on February the 14th. This year, Valentine's Day is also Ash Wednesday. This is the beginning of the Lenten season. Lent is a time where certain Christian Catholics, Lutherans, Methodists, Presbyterians, and Anglican denominations prepare for Easter through prayer, penance, and fasting. And also President's Day is on Monday, February the 19th. And the next commission's meeting will be held on Tuesday, February the 13th at 6 p.m. in council chambers, and all are welcome to attend.
Thank you. I don't think we have Mindy from the library. No. Okay, Ricketts Community Center, Counselor Kirkland. Anything to add?
Nothing today, but I'm going to have a report for Monday.
Okay. Monday. And Pottstown School District, Counselor Lindsay.
I want to give a big kudos to our Trojan girls wrestling team. Now, keep in mind, this is the first year that they are doing this, and they are on fire. Let me tell you, they are making history. So kudos to the girls at the high school and the middle school wrestling team. You go, girls. And also, I wanted to let you know that David Charles for Strive is looking for volunteers. I went to the leadership breakfast today, so I wanted to, he expressed that mentors and how important it is for us to mentor our youth. And if you would like to be a mentor, you can contact David Charles. If you don't have David's information, you can always contact me and I can connect you to David. And my information is on the borough website under government. That's it for me.
Very good. Thank you. We will be forgoing the Solicitor's General discussion because he'll be joining us later. The manager's report, Mr. Keller.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I have a couple quick updates for you here tonight, and then I want to take a little bit longer to tell you about one program that we're looking to implement in the borough, and also information on some data about housing insecurity in the borough that I'll show in a little bit. But first, as I mentioned, the L&I service requests are now live, so please check into our website to report licensing and inspections issues to the borough. Also, good news on the grant front, the Commonwealth Financing Authority approved a grant through the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program for $75,000, and that's for Pollock Park Phase 1 redevelopment project. So we pretty much have the remediation money, and that's going to hopefully get started soon, and then this will be for the redevelopment to put the facilities back into place that are on the master plan. Also, we did receive an additional $140,000 in stormwater arch rehabilitation funding from the CFA flood mitigation program, and that's slated for the arch collapse at 1200 High. So at this point, we should have all the funding available that we need to conduct that project. We're just waiting on the final grant contract to come through so that we can initiate that work. So more on that to come soon. Next up, I want to respond to some of the reoccurring comments that we've had in the borough regarding some of the trash issues. And Councilor Lindsay and our new assistant manager, Zach Nelson, have been working together at Councilor Lindsay's request to create and adopt a street program in the borough. So we feel that it's really vital that, businesses, government, residents, that we all play a vital role in keeping our neighborhoods safe, healthy, and clean. And we really need all the neighbors and community members to come together to make that difference. And we think that through this Adopt a Street program, it's one small step that we can take that's fairly easy to implement. There's a lot of other things that we would like to do. But this is the first one that we would like to try to implement. So how it would work is that we would ask individuals or groups to agree to a 2-year contract where they would adopt a stretch of 1,500 feet of street, both sides of the street, probably about 2 or 3 blocks, depending on what street you're on. The requirement would be to clean up at least twice a month. to pick up trash and leaves along that street. And then also in the wintertime, help out with clearing snow on the sidewalks for maybe neighbors that aren't able to do that, and at some of the ADA ramps and intersections. We're also encouraging that the groups get together twice a year for kind of a coordinated cleanup day, where you could do like a 4-block radius of your neighborhood. So the borough would supply vests, pickers, rakes, and bags. The bags would be a distinct color, so that we know where the active groups are, and where to pick up the trash that they collect. The process will be that once they conduct a cleanup event, they are to contact Public Works Department so that we can coordinate through JP Mascaro to have the bags picked up, and if not, Public Works would be able to pick them up in their place. So the way that's how we would keep track of it, so the residents reporting the bags to Public Works that need to be picked up, that's how we would measure whether the group is active or not. The groups would get a sign bearing their names, and it will be hung in the area that they choose to adopt. More likely one sign at the beginning of the Adopt a Street area and one side at the end of the Adopt a Street area. And hopefully with this recognition, it would encourage others to join. So this is kind of just a high-level summary. We still need to work out exactly what the 2-year contract would look like with the residents, but this program is modeled after a very successful program in the city of Reading. So we've been coordinating with them. They actually have a whole department that is dedicated to adopt a street in the city of Reading. So at this point, unless anyone is opposed or has any suggestions, we would plan to move forward and implement this policy over the next couple months. And I don't know if Trinita or Zach, if you wanted to add anything to this summary.
No, I just appreciate you guys implementing this idea that I happened to see. So for those who don't know, I operate a bus for SEPTA, and I drive around and I look at other areas. So I'm in Bucks County, I'm in Lansdale. I drive all over, okay? Whatever SEPTA's at, that's where I'm at. And in Bucks County going towards Jersey, it's really a lot of traffic. And usually where there's a lot of traffic, people have a tendency to throw stuff out the window, right? So this is awful clean to be this high traffic area, because you leave in Pennsylvania and you're going into Jersey. And on my way back, I seen a sign that said adopt a block, and it had Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. And I said, oh, when I get, because I can't use my phone on the bus, can't take pictures, because I could, and I'm time. So I said, let me get to the end. So I text Justin and said, oh, can we do a adopt a block? So anytime he said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So I'm doing research. And then the more research I did, the more I realized that this wasn't a new thing. DC, my hometown is doing it. Reading, Lancaster, Philly they have a big hoorah going on about that. They're in competition with blocks. I like to do competition. So anyway, and this was last year, and now that we have a borough assistant manager, he can, me and him talked about it and stuff like that. And I just think this is a good idea, to do it. And Zach is going to talk to others, not just us. So he's going to talk to people out here that is talking about the trash. So we want to hear you, because you got ideas just as well as I do. So we want to hear your ideas also. So I just thank you guys for, implementing it and bringing it up. So, thanks.
Absolutely. And the other thing I didn't touch on is we want to be able to partner with Hobart's Run on this. And require that the group also adopts 1 or 2 trash cans from Hobart's Run as a part of this effort. So that would kind of bring it all together very nicely with the cleanup, and then also having the trash receptacles available there as well to really help the community members take some ownership and pride in their neighborhoods.
Absolutely. All right.
We're all behind you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, well, we will move forward, and once we have.
Justin, can you do me a favor? Can you give me, or give the people, the general update you gave me about the explosion area?
Oh.
I know it's not much that we have, but can you give them basically what you gave me? Just a general on the status. 'Cause I've been getting calls about, why isn't it cleared and what's going on? So can you do that for me, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to try to answer that for you. As you know, with any tragedy like that, there can be a lot of litigation and lawsuits that result coming from a lot of different directions. And through the course of that, there's a lot of attorneys that are involved with this particular issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of investigators, both, with governmental entities and private through the attorneys that are looking into this matter and trying to understand and determine what the cause is, and, from the attorney's standpoint, who's at fault, right? So because of all the parties that are involved, each step that they take, each time they need to remove something from the site, or to get the site cleaned up, or to conduct testing, all the attorneys have to meet, they have to agree, and they have to set a date. So things in that regard are moving at a snail's pace, but, I want to assure everyone things are still moving forward, and, we're doing what we can to try to press them to get the site at least cleaned up, because we think it's been more than due time for that to happen.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so onto the Adopt a Street, we'll move forward with that. We'll be developing some more detailed guidance after Zach is able to get some more feedback from others, and we'll get back to you. So hopefully we'll have it implemented by spring. That's our goal. Next up, I wanted to present a couple slides in response to some of the common themes that we've been getting from the public in terms of housing insecurity in the borough, and what the borough is doing, maybe how they compare to other municipalities, how they compare to Montgomery County, and kind of how did the socioeconomics of Pottstown end up where they are today. And I'm not here to try to offer solutions or cause a debate, but there's been a lot of kind of things said and facts that were thrown out here. Tonight, I just want to present to you some of the facts as we understand them. So tonight, we'll look at a comparative analysis with Montgomery County. Go to the next slide there. So first up, I want to take a look at population versus housing vouchers. And in most of these slides, the blue color is going to represent the borough, and the orange color is going to represent the county. So the pie graph on the left, we can see the population of Pottstown at 23,000 and the population of Montgomery County at 850,000. So Pottstown represents 2.7% of the total population in the county. On the right, we have a graph showing the housing voucher choice residents. So this was formerly known as Section 8. And in Pottstown, we have 452 Section 8 vouchers out of Montgomery County's total 2,507. So even though we only have 2.7% of the county's population, we have almost 24% of the housing voucher choice residents. Next slide, please. Kind of hand in hand with that, next we want to look at low-income housing facilities. So again, Borough ranks second. We're kind of leading the way here in the number of these facilities that we have in the county. We have 6 of them. So you can see there some of the other municipalities that are listed, showing that we're number 2. When we look at on the right, the number of low-income housing units, so these are the units within the low-income housing facilities, so Bright Hope, the towers, so on and so forth. We have 9.7% of the low-income housing units of the county, despite being 2.7% of the county's population. If you zoom out a little bit and add in the Rolling Hills low-income housing development, that adds an additional 232 units. So the general Pottstown area is saturated with 14.7% of the county's low-income housing. Next slide. So why is this? Why do we bear a disproportionate number of housing vouchers and public housing facilities? Couple reasons, really. But one of the main reasons for the housing vouchers is until recently, and this just changed several years ago, the county did not use market-based housing vouchers, meaning that non-market-based housing vouchers could disproportionately impact communities with lower property values, such as Pottstown, compared to the county average, because they may attract a higher concentration of voucher holders seeking more affordable housing options. So in the past, what has happened, for instance, if the county was giving you $1,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment through the housing voucher choice program, you had the option to take that $1,000 and let's say you lived in Ambler. You could decide to find a facility in Ambler, and you're probably going to pay some additional monies above that $1,000 voucher that you would get. Or you could decide to come out to Pottstown and maybe even have the $1,000, if it was 5 years ago, cover your full freight. Or maybe you would have less to pay in. So what it did is it split families from their support structures because they were seeking where they could get, the best available housing for their money. So luckily that has changed, but the effects of that still impact Pottstown today because this is something that has gone on for generations and generations, and it causes several potential challenges for the community, and I won't read through all of these, but one is the concentration of poverty because these low-income individuals are coming to Pottstown because they can stretch that check further. It also diminishes access to opportunities. With communities like Pottstown that have lower property values, we have to stretch our dollar a lot farther. We have fewer resources and amenities, and it impacts the quality of our schools, our healthcare facilities, and very importantly, our job opportunities. So obviously concentrating voucher holders in a particular community can have these kind of effects. And it also adds to perpetuating the negative stereotype and stigma with voucher holders in terms of poverty, and housing assistance programs and what are, people's views on what the, benefit versus, the pros and cons are versus the different programs. So the good news is that, we are in a market-based housing voucher, meaning that if you're in Lower Merion, you're gonna get a substantially higher voucher amount than you would get in Pottstown. So that should allow people to hopefully, stay in place with their support structure you know, one of the issues that it causes for us is for the school district and the issues that they have with transiency. You know, there are teachers that I've heard of who started their classroom with 30 students, and they'd be lucky if they had 5 of those original 30 students at the end of the year. So this is very hard for any continuity in the education of the students. The good news is that that's been kind of right-sized, but we still bear the legacy of what had happened to us for decades. Next slide, please. So next I want to talk a little bit about unhoused and shelter beds available in the borough and countywide. I know that there's a lot of opinions about, you know, should the borough do more? Are we, you know, why aren't they doing more? Are they doing enough? Maybe they're doing too much. Wherever you stand on that, I don't want to get into that tonight, but I want to look at the data that we do have available through the county. And a lot of this data, I'll just highlight that it's based on the 2023 point in time count. I think that the 2024 count probably just happened, or if not, it's probably going to happen soon. So we don't have that data quite yet. But as of last year, the total unhoused individuals living outside. So this isn't the total number of unhoused individuals. I think that number is north of 300 in the county. But some of them have shelter. So this is just looking at on the right here, the total that we have that are not in shelter. So as you can see in Pottstown, we have 41 unhoused that are not in shelter. The county has 110 overall. So we have 32% of the county's unhoused population. So no matter which way you cut it currently, there's a deficit of beds. I mean, that's a fact. Total year-round and seasonal beds. So year-round would be something that obviously people could take refuge in. Year-round, seasonal would be things like Code Blue or warming centers like we have here in Pottstown. So right now on Pottstown, and then on the second pie graph there, we have 22% of the existing year-round and seasonal beds in the county. So that's the total combined of those two different numbers. If you look at the last chart on the right, Pottstown has also approved, and you know people seem to forget this, but Pottstown Zoning Hearing Board did approve a 45-bed permanent shelter in Pottstown for year-round housing. So mostly what you're seeing there under the existing number is going to be the 30 beds at the temporary warming shelter plus the beds that we have at the Salvation Army. On the right there, the gray area would represent once the 45-bed shelter is constructed, which again, it's been approved, we would represent 33% of the total year-round and seasonal beds in the county, and we have a 37.2% population currently that's unhoused. Next slide, please. So we're going to break this down a little bit further, and we've talked about year-round and temporary beds. In the year-round bed category, we have 2 categories. So we have single beds that could be open to single individuals, and then we also have family beds that are open to families. This number, the family number, is a little bit harder to count because they count them as units. Some families could have 2 or 3 in a unit, but other families could have 4 or 5. But the number that the county has used for this has been a 2.7 per unit. So in Pottstown, single beds, countywide, the single adult beds that we have is 51 right now, 51. That's it, year round. That's all we have. With the addition of the 45 beds that were approved here in Pottstown, Pottstown would have 46, almost half of the seasonal, or half of the year-round beds, single beds in the county, once that's constructed, compared to what we have now. And then we look at year-round family beds, so this is the Salvation Army. They've been in operation for a pretty long time now. They've got 11 units there, or about 29 beds. So in terms of year-round family beds, we've got 32% of the year-round beds in the county. And then we look at temporary beds, code blue, seasonal. So this is the, something similar to what the warming center is. It's operated by Beacon of Hope. So in Pottstown, we have 30 beds, but countywide, we have 125. So Pottstown has 24% of the beds in the county through the 30-bed seasonal warming center that was also approved by the borough. Now we'd like to look at it, breaking it down by municipality, and quite frankly, there aren't a lot of municipalities that have done anything to help out with shelters in Pottstown. And you'll see that there are 6 total locations, and this is combining the year-round beds, the single and the family year-round beds. Currently, we have more year-round beds than 60 of the 62 municipalities in Montgomery County. And with the approval of the 45 beds, once that's constructed, we'll have more year-round beds than any other municipality in Montgomery County. So that's what's represented by that gray bar above Pottstown. That would be the future construction. Looking on the right at temporary beds, the code blue seasonal, breakdown by municipality, you can see that Norristown has about 45 beds, and then Pottstown is right behind that with about 30 beds. So again, on this chart, Pottstown has done more than any other municipality outside of Norristown to accommodate temporary beds. Next slide, please. So whose responsibility is this? Well, it's complicated, but what we do know is that the county has a total budget of $567 million. 38.6% of that is allocated for health and human services, under which programs for homelessness, affordable housing, things of that nature would be provided for. So the blurb on the right is basically, it lists the various entitlement grant funds, CDBG, home, emergency solution grants, and kind of what they're targeted to. The ESG is funding to engage homeless individuals on the street. So that's probably something like what Street Outreach does, just to kind of give you an idea of the nature of that type of service that they're funding there. And improve the number of shelters, the quality of shelters, assist in shelter operations, rapidly rehouse the individuals, provide services and prevention. Home project is meant to building, buy, and rehab affordable housing for rent or home ownership. And essentially, most of this funding is passed down through the federal or the state government to the county, not to the borough, to the county. At that point, the county then determines which projects they want to move forward with, and typically that's done through an RFP process. And through the RFP process, these funds could be awarded to municipalities, or in many cases, nonprofits that are running these type of facilities. But there's no requirement on how the county kind of allocates this. I mean, there are requirements in terms of what type of uses it can be allocated towards, but when it gets down to the detail of which projects are picked, the county is pretty much in charge of that decision. just have, the main categories, is the money has to be spent towards low and moderate income individuals. Next slide, please. Another kind of one-time funding source that the county had was the American Rescue Plan Act. And through the American Rescue Plan Act, the county received $161 million through ARPA. And they allocated 20% towards affordable housing. Pottstown received $1.8 million for affordable housing, and we're not aware if any of those projects have come to fruition. When we talk about shelter funding, the county's approach to shelter funding has been to not directly get involved in building or managing a shelter themselves. They're kind of preferring to pass that on to the nonprofit world or faith-based institutions to run these facilities for them, essentially. So shelter funding was 4.2% of the $161 million. In Pottstown, Beacon of Hope received $1.2 million, or 17% of the county's total shelter funding. Next slide. Now, since the ARP money was given out, the county formed a homeless task force, and there were three top areas for project endorsement. And this kind of was arrived at through rankings, depending on low barriers, financial cost, high impact, and chance of success. So the overall focus was clearly on strategic placement of shelters, especially in areas outside of Norristown and Pottstown. Engaging faith-based partners to increase the number of faith-based organizations that can provide shelters. And then localizing the homeless response is strategically placing shelters and mobile services for the unhoused, especially outside of Norristown and Pottstown. So clearly, the funding was provided to Beacon of Hope. We've got, we're doing better than 50 or 60 of the other municipalities in Norristown. So the task force picked up on that, and they said, wait a minute. Pottstown and Norristown are doing all the heavy lifting here. So that's where these recommendations kind of came from. Then thirdly, addressing zoning, especially to ease shelter establishment for faith-based organizations. Obviously, we went through our share of trials and tribulations with the zoning, but at the end of the day, both the permanent and the temporary were approved. But it was, let's be honest, it wasn't easy, but we did get there. We did get there. Next slide, please. So how does this impact the borough? Well, first we look at the real estate property tax, and we look at all the, I think over 6,000 or so, or no, I'm sorry, 8,000 or so tax exempt, non-tax exempt parcels in the borough. And then we looked at the tax exempt. So we've got 333 tax exempt, 8,429 non-exempt. So about 4% of our parcels are tax exempt. But when you look at the slide on the right, we're losing 2.4 million every year from properties that are not on the tax roll. So how does that add up with these? We only have, 4% of parcels that are tax exempt, but we're losing 23% of our revenue. It's because a lot of these parcels are large facilities, like Tower Health, like the Hill School, like, schools, like the borough, right? So we're all kind of in this together. Some of these are the social service entities that are helping those in need. Those entities tend to bring in individuals that in general have a higher need for local government and police services, but the entities don't pay taxes to offset these services. So the tax exempt parcels, they've been increasing in Pottstown since 2011. They've increased almost 9%. If you look at the tax millage, the red line represents where Pottstown is. There's a red arrow below Pottstown. These are the other municipalities in Montgomery County. So in terms of municipal tax millage, we're at number 2 highest. In terms of the school, combined school and municipal millage, we're at 3rd highest. So what is, putting all this together, what is it saying? It's saying that we've got low property values, we've got residents with high needs that we need to spend more money on to assist, and we've got a high proportion of tax exempt parcels, which make it financially more difficult to be able to assist and implement the types of programs that we would like to implement in the borough. Next slide, please. So this all kind of gets back to property values, and this slide looks at the median household data. So median household income in Pottstown is $52,000. Is, you know, it's about half of what it is in Montgomery County. Similarly, the property value at $215,000 is about half of what it is in Montgomery County. Home ownership's just under 50% in the county. It's at 72%. So just to kind of summarize, Pottstown faces numerous conditions. We have, you know, contentious issues that come up that seem to be reoccurring themes, things like recovery homes, subsidized housing, housing voucher choice, tax-exempt properties, homeless shelters. And, you know, we have organizations that are intending to establish and expand these facilities. So they are looking at Pottstown as the most cost-effective location to operate. And in addition, with Pottstown's historical concentration of poverty, it's become a prime destination for these entities to locate here. Really, the attractiveness serves from the generational poverty concentration, which makes it appealing for these entities to locate here to try to serve these populations. So additionally, you know, the entities can reduce their upfront costs due to lower property values, which, as we went over earlier, partially had to do with some misguided, you know, federal, state, and county government policies and programs, which only amplified the trend over time. So clearly, Pottstown is shouldering a disproportionate burden of social service responsibilities when compared to the county, despite the loss of tax revenue that it creates. But we're doing a lot to support those in need. You know, as a home to numerous organizations in the borough that help the homeless, assist with affordable housing, assist those struggling with mental and health issues, and those in need of food and other assistance. And I think what the data does point to very clearly is that other communities in the region are not contributing their fair share, which has put an undue strain on the borough's taxpayers and resource. So that concludes my presentation. If anyone would like a copy, I'd be happy to send that out.
Remember when I first got on council, I guess that'd be 9 years ago now, I had a lot of questions about, you know, specifically like housing vouchers and or what they used to refer to as Section 8. And actually Joel Johnson, the executive director of Montgomery Housing, actually came out and meet me, and he actually spent about an hour with me to explain, you know, all the details of what goes into it. And actually there's a fair amount of misconceptions about it. I wonder if it'd be beneficial if you'd have time to talk to us at some point in time this year, if anybody's interested. I think he spoke at Blighted Property Review that year as well. Maybe you have time.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, we're at number 12, potential zoning ordinance amendments. Mr. Hovey.
Okay. Two things to present to you this evening. One's quicker and the other's a little bit lengthier. At your table tonight were 4 documents. The Ordinance Review Committee recommended 2 separate amendments to the zoning ordinance. The first of which has to do with general criteria for special exceptions. A few years ago, we adopted general conditions for conditional uses. I referenced those during the conditional use hearing tonight, and the document that says Pottstown Code on the top, those are those conditions that you adopted for conditional uses. And as you can see, they're just general things that the applicant's got approved to show that it's compatible with the neighborhood and won't have a negative impact. When we reviewed the ordinance, we discovered that there are no general criteria for special exceptions. As a refresher, conditional uses come to you for a hearing and decision. Special exceptions go to the zoning hearing board. So the ordinance review committee is just recommending that you adopt conditions for special exception, which are consistent with the conditional use criteria. So that will be listed for Monday night, along with the potential amendment for sober living homes. The second topic is the one that's a little bit more interesting. It's a controversial topic and problematic for a lot of municipalities, throughout the Commonwealth. This job is interesting too, because you never really know what you're going to gain expertise in. And even before I knew municipal law existed, one of my first clients 2 firms ago was a group home out in the Lancaster area. And I helped them through the zoning process, and since over the years have represented a couple other group homes in working them through that process and ensuring that, their rights were honored. And obviously, the primary work nowadays is working for municipalities who are on the other side, trying to manage this particular use, which often is very unpopular with the neighborhood that they're located in, and there's a lot of fear and mystery surrounding this particular use. So I'm going to walk you through sort of what group homes are, sober living homes, current state of our ordinance, and what's being recommended by the Ordinance Review Committee at this point. I kind of did it in a fake question and answer format to try to hopefully make it a little more user-friendly. But group homes are protected by the Federal Fair Housing Act. And what is a group home? A group home is a place where people with protected disabilities live in a supportive family environment. What's considered a family environment? It is stable housing where people live for an extended period of time, not day to day or month to month. Where the courts have yet to give a clear test on when someone is considered transient rather than someone with stable housing, the case law generally suggests that someone's required to stay at a home for at least a couple months before moving on to somewhere else. The courts have also told us that there needs to be shared common areas, such as a kitchen, living room, and bathrooms, which are maintained by the people who live there. It does not involve any type of specialized services being offered within the home, such as counseling. When is someone qualified as disabled and protected in terms of living in a group home? You qualify as disabled under the American with Disabilities Act if you're a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activity, a person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. Examples in terms of a group home setting would be a home for the deaf, a home for individuals with autism, or a home for other people with physical, intellectual, or developmental disabilities. It also includes individuals who are in active recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, but it's important to understand that if someone is abusing drugs or alcohol, then they are no longer qualified as disabled. What protections do group homes enjoy? They may not be discriminated against in terms of their housing options. The courts direct that group homes essentially cannot be treated differently than traditional nuclear families in terms of housing laws and how housing laws are enforced. This means that our zoning, rental requirements, and building and property maintenance codes cannot treat group homes any differently than they do you and your families. What's a sober living home or recovery house? What's good about it and why are they important? And what's problematic? A sober living home or recovery house is a type of group home for individuals who are in active recovery from drug and/or alcohol addiction. The theory behind it We even had a good presentation with the Ordinance Review Committee from one of the operators here in town. When someone is dealing with addiction, usually in their life, they have people who are enabling that addiction. And sort of what the research shows is that when someone goes to rehab, if they come out of rehab and they go back to the same environment they were in, surrounded by those same individuals, the likelihood of relapse is particularly high. What a sober living home does is when the person comes out of a rehab facility where they're receiving actual treatment or counseling, they would move into a home with other individuals in that same situation and try to develop their coping skills, stability in an environment that's conducive to that. The other thing that's interesting about it is what's usually recommended is someone's coming out of a treatment center, they actually locate to a sober living home that's not where they're from. Because again, you're trying to get away from the people who are enabling that type of infliction. It can be really important. Most group homes will require the people who live there to follow house rules, to do chores. There's congregate meals. They're required to seek employment, and the typical stay is somewhere from about 6 to 9 months in a successful case. What's problematic about them is often how they're run. They can be quite lucrative, and there are a lot of sober living homes that are motivated more by money than some type of mission. And in those types of homes, the individuals are not nurtured or cared for. They're basically a paycheck, and what ends up happening is those individuals will relapse, and often those sober living homes, rather than following any type of proper eviction procedure, will just throw these individuals out on the street. And at this point, if they have relocated somewhere away from home, they're now essentially in a foreign new place and homeless. And their families may not have been contacted, services may not have been contacted to provide any type of assistance, and that can become really problematic for the neighborhood and the community in which these homes are located. What is our current zoning for group homes? Group homes under our current ordinance are permitted by special exception in the traditional town neighborhood district, but nowhere else, including the neighborhood residential district. The special exception criteria regulate the number of people who can reside in the home, how many people can sleep in a bedroom, and require screening and setback requirements for parking areas, as some examples. Why is this unenforceable? These regulations treat group homes differently than families. For example, families are permitted to reside in a single-family home in the neighborhood residential district, but group homes are not. The only limitation on how many people who live in a single-family dwelling or sleep in a single bedroom for people other than those living in group homes are those contained in the building code. This is a problem because if a home is large enough per the building code to allow for a couple, their 8 children, and their in-laws to all reside there, for example, then group homes under the law should be permitted to operate at that same capacity. Approximately 4 years ago, after the Zoning Hearing Board denied an application filed by a group home for recovery addicts for zoning relief, the borough got sued based on the illegality of the ordinance. On the advice of our insurance company, that litigation settled. And at the time, we directed that the ordinance no longer be enforced against group homes because of these legal issues and the likelihood of further litigation unless and until it could be modified and brought into compliance with the Federal Fair Housing Act's protections or something changed. So what changed that we're coming forward with this proposal now? Pennsylvania's Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs created a licensing program for sober living homes. The licensing program is intensive and establishes best practices. The regulations govern everything from intake and screening, personnel management, safety and emergency procedures, tenants' rights, medication control and administration, and complaints about the operation of the home. Information on licensed sober living homes is publicly available and can be accessed and searched on DDAP's website. Complaints about licensed sober living homes can also be made directly to DDAP, which will investigate the complaints, not the local municipality. Failing to meet the program standards will result in a loss of the license. The problem, though, is that the licensing program is voluntary. It's voluntary for the reasons I previously explained, namely that group homes are federally protected, and even the state cannot directly regulate them absent some change in the federal law. The Commonwealth tried to create incentive for sober living homes to obtain a license based on an attempt to limit the revenue for the homes. Sober living homes can be quite lucrative in a way that is different from a single-family residence. A property here in town might be rentable for $1,200 a month. If a sober living home houses 8 men, however, and charges each of them $300 per month to stay there, then the operator can get $1,800 a month for a single-family residence, which otherwise would be rented for a lot less money. The state now mandates that any treatment center which receives funding from Pennsylvania is prohibited from referring patients to non-licensed sober living homes. It is an effort to try to cut off easy referrals and make it more difficult for these homes to maintain their occupancy if they are unlicensed. I know some homes did get licensed after the program rollout, but many still resist. These homes usually get the residents through church networks and other patient referrals. In the packet I gave you, I included a list of the DDAP website of all sober living homes in Montgomery County that are licensed. You will see that most of them are here in the borough. Ultimately, we believe that the licensing program, though, may provide an opportunity to craft an enforceable zoning amendment which addresses at least some of the concerns that surround this use without denying protected persons appropriate housing. So what's in the proposed ordinance amendment? The proposed ordinance amendment includes revisions to the definition for group homes that make several adjustments for all group homes and not just sober living homes. These include defaulting to the maximum occupancy limits in the building code and require that they register with L&I. It will now allow all group homes except sober living homes, which are unlicensed, to be permitted by right in any dwelling unit throughout the borough. The proposed amendment also creates a definition for sober living home, which will be a subset of group home. The definition provides as follows. A sober living home will be a type of group home used for 4 or more individuals recovering from drug or alcohol addiction and not engaged in the current illegal use of or there may be a typo. But essentially engage in current use of controlled substances, and which provides those individuals with a safe and supportive drug and alcohol-free environment that may include peer support and other non-specialized recovery support services for the purposes of a transitional environment between rehabilitation facilities and reintegration into their future lives. This definition shall not include This definition includes uses often termed sober houses, recovery houses, or sober living environments. It then creates sub-definitions for licensed and unlicensed sober living homes, with a license through DDAP being the difference. Licensed sober living homes will be required to keep their application and license on file with L&I, and this includes a tremendous amount of information on each one, which would essentially be available to the public in certain circumstances. Unlicensed sober living homes will be permitted by special exception. On page 2 of the outline, you'll see that the proposed amendment then includes special exception criteria for that use. We believe the conditions of approval to be reasonable and attainable. They're meant to protect the residents and ensure a baseline of operation. Additionally, any group home that is not owner-occupied, which in many cases is most of them because they'll be owned and operated by an LLC or a corporation or some other entity, they will be subject to our rental program, which will require a rental license, inspections, and tenant reporting, just as any other single-family dwelling is required to do. Ultimately, is this defensible if challenged? The crux of a legal challenge would be that the borough is discriminating against people with disabilities in terms of housing, and specifically recovering addicts. Our position will be that by permitting all group homes except for unlicensed sober living homes, the intent and effect of the ordinance amendment is clearly not discriminatory discriminatory against, or exclusionary of recovering addicts. The intent and effect is the opposite, as the special exception criteria seeks to protect those individuals' rights and protect the health and safety of not just those people, but those in the neighborhood where they are located. If council is seeking to be able to attempt to regulate this use to some extent, a lot of thought and research went into the outline presented to you this evening, and it is the best we can develop so far in our effort to try to thread the needle. Ultimately, though, it will come down, though, to your level of risk tolerance. Proceeding with this ordinance amendment, the enforcement thereof will not be without risk. The borough may get challenged if it chooses to require the unlicensed homes to get special exception criteria, or if the zoning hearing board denies an application for special exception approval. But again, this is our best effort to try to give you some option to do something. So I know that's a lot of information for tonight. Ideally, I think it should just sort of be a question and answer format. You can then have a few days to digest all of this, and we can list it for discussion on Monday evening. So any questions?
So I guess while you absorb it, I think what Matt's asking for is for, if you're comfortable with the concept, that you would authorize him to move forward with preparing an ordinance for your review in the future, near future.
How many times have we been sued for trying to enforce this ordinance the way it was, without these changes?
I believe only once.
Only once?
But I think that ordinance was only in effect for a couple years.
Correct.
Because of that?
It was adopted in 2015.
And I think 2019 we got sued.
Okay, we'll list it for Monday.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Is it worth the effort of going through the change, compared to the odds of us getting sued if it's enforced? Do you know what I'm trying to ask? Basically, is it worth it? Well, I understand the work's done already, but is it worth continuing with it and putting it through if we're just gonna have the same issue? I mean, I know you can't be certain, but what's the level of risk?
Sure. I mean, whether it's worth it as a policy decision for council, you're the ones who feel complaints from neighbors. You have a sense of the pulse as to whether or not this is an issue that needs to be addressed at this time. In terms of the level of risk, we've minimized it as much as we can. I genuinely believe in what's been presented and would be comfortable defending this in court. It would ultimately be up to a judge to determine, again, where the risk comes from is by still doing it by special exception for the unlicensed sober living homes, is they can make the argument that you're still treating us differently than families. Our counters, we still have some degree of responsibility to the neighborhoods and particularly the individuals who live there, because this ordinance is focused at the operators of the sober living home to make sure there's at least some minimum standards that are protecting the people who live there. So there's still some risk because it's not total apples to apples as far as how they're being treated, but we think we've minimized it as best we can.
Yeah, and I took a deep review of it, and I think so too. I mean, the ordinance that we have on the books now is clearly challengeable, I would say, and this one might be challengeable. So, but still, I think closer to not. But somebody can challenge anything, whether they win or not. It's a different story. But the other part of this is that in order for us to receive funding through the federal government and the state, we have to have ordinances that are in compliance with the Fair Housing Act. So since we've been challenged and lost, technically, if we keep this current ordinance on the book, we could be denied grant funds in the future if we don't take steps to correct it.
That's interesting.
So then, If you don't do anything, your only other opportunity is, well, we have an ordinance on the book, but we're not going to enforce it.
That's really good information, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alexa, we'll list that for Monday.
Next is a zoning appeal by the grocery outlet bargain market signage. Mr. Hovey.
Yeah, this is a zoning appeal related to 799 State Street, which is in the Highway Business District. They're looking to put a grocery store in there. They're requesting 3 sign variances. 3 signs total are permitted. They're seeking to have 4. And then the other 2 variances are related to the maximum total sign area and then the size of one of the directional signs that they're proposing. A copy of the sign the sign plan was attached to the agenda and in your packet, so you can see exactly what those look like. You know, we'll list this for Monday evening for you to determine whether or not you want to take a position.
That's your ward, Don? Yeah. Okay.
I have a question. Would issues like this particular sign be addressed when the ordinance gets addressed for signage?
Some of it would be if we follow through with the formula. For the benefit of everyone, we're working through a comprehensive amendment to the sign ordinance. The working theory is to try to get to a model, particularly for businesses, where they would be entitled to a maximum sign area, and they could use that sign area however they want. So it would be a step away from saying you could only have, in this case, 3 signs. It would rather say you could have 500 square feet, and they could then have 3, 4, 2, 5, however many signs they want. So at least one of the variances likely would not be needed under the working theory for the rewrite.
Thank you.
Yep.
Matt?
Right.
I'm looking at the sign ordinance. It's probably maybe something that we might want to look at because the square footage of the signage that's allowed and what large retailers, let's say like Panera or Chipotle, are frequently, because of their branding, so they're going to have to be constantly coming up for, unless, of course, we get away from maybe square footage and maybe look at light pollution, because I think light pollution could be something that you could look at, but I just see these signs and I say, these guys want 7 times what the size wants, or what this, that's because they have done this in various locations. So the sign issue may, if not addressed, may deter larger entities from wanting to construct stuff, unless we're always just going to go right ahead.
Yeah, and I think that I've been involved in the ordinance review meetings, and I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. So we're trying to tie the square footage of the sign that's allowed to the frontage of the building. So if you've got a bigger frontage, you can do a bigger sign. You know, as long as it's still not a certain percentage more, whatever percentage we pick, 10%, 15%, whatever that is. But yeah, we're trying to tie it to your building size, which, you know, so that it's proportional.
That's something we actually agree on. I've been asking for changes to the sign ordinance since they made some businesses take down their pole signs, so, yeah. Look at that. Thank you.
Okay, 14, we have a zoning hearing board application. That's yours.
That's Matt.
Matt?
14 is the donation. Did I have the wrong copy?
Cool.
Sure, for the other zoning application? Yeah, the other zoning application that was received is for 415 High Street. The applicant, presently on the property is one commercial building, which was the bank. The new owners are seeking to convert the bank into a mixed-use building with a 4,800 square foot laundromat on the ground floor and 2 residential units on the second floor. This property is located in the downtown. The zoning officer denied the the application, and the applicant is seeking two variances, two use variances. The first use variance is because laundromats are not permitted within the downtown district. And then the second is that laundromats then are not permitted as part of a mixed-use building. So there are two use variances to essentially have a laundromat on the first floor of that building.
And isn't there a laundromat within football throwing distance
In Washington.
on the 400 block? So literally, I was driving by and I'm pretty sure I could hit the bank with a football. So they're going to put a laundromat right within a football throw of another laundromat. Okay,
What they want.
that's interesting.
So we'll list this for Monday night, and you can decide whether or not you want to take a position.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I didn't realize what you just said, but I talked to some other places, and Oxford has one in their downtown. And I was really surprised at that, and it's very successful. I'm sure they don't have one within a football's throw of another one. However, yeah, I found that pretty interesting. That's all.
Competition.
Okay, Pottstown Center LP, they want a donation bin.
Yeah, so it looks like Matt was going to take this one, but they're requesting to place two of the donation item recycling bins in the parking lot. Per our code, only one bin is allowed per property, so they're seeking a waiver of section Part 10, 1007.
Is that good as zoning?
No, that's you guys.
Just for us.
Yeah, it's similar to when you waive other ordinance requirements. So they're coming to you to seek a waiver. As Justin said, the ordinance only allows one donation bin per property, and they're seeking, special permission from you to have a second one.
What's the address on this? Remember?
223 Shoemaker.
It's the Walmart Center, right?
Okay.
Are they generally kept up? Meaning, they're the closed donations, right? Like, are the closed generally in the bins, not left outside, just
Well, I mean,
sorta?
it depends on the operator. I mean, I've certainly seen some that have been in good condition and others where things get piled up. And I think that we have one per property for a good reason.
Okay, that's, okay. Thank you.
Okay, list that. 16 is Take It Outdoors signed memorandum. What's our MUI?
Yeah, so if you recall, this is the very successful kayak bike rental program that we partnered with the nonprofit Take It Outdoors. So we have an initial MOU, and as a part of that MOU, we're obligated to conduct an annual review and update the agreement. Michael Lenhart, Parks and Recreation Director, has reviewed the agreement, and he has nothing but good things to say and would like to review it for another year.
Very good.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I love running kayaks from there.
Me too.
List that
Nice
for
and
Monday.
peaceful.
17, a resolution, Montco, PA 240. Do we have an application due?
Yes, we do. This is due in March, so we would like to submit an application for $250,000 for Monco 2040. This will be a project aimed at repairing sidewalks that are damaged by street trees in the core downtown area. This will be a repair program that will be regardless of property ownership, so whether it's owner occupied or not. It aligns with many of the criteria in the grant program. The grant program calls for adaptation and resiliency, as well as support for downtowns, and they want a contiguous project. So we think we hit a lot of the, check a lot of the boxes here for this one, but I want to note that this program will be separate from the upcoming $100,000 that council approved for sidewalks damaged by street trees in other areas of the borough, which is slated to go to low to moderate owner occupied properties, and that's slated to launch later this year. So the match for the $250,000 project in the downtown would be $25,000.
Okay. Questions? No? All right, you listed, I'll sign it.
Will do.
Okay, 18 is a resolution for our destruction of records. Is that you, Matt?
Yeah, so every year we have the records that will be destructed. We have a list for everyone's review if you want to take a look at it. And these, we're allowed to destroy these in accordance with the Municipal Records Act.
Okay. Do that on Monday. Act 44 Transit, our performance review.
Yes, if you guys recall, you approved this initial plan a couple months ago. This gets reviewed quarterly. And if you look at the attachment, it's basically, it's putting in target dates for implementation of the various action plan items that we've approved.
Okay. Do that. Sly Fox 5K street closure, same as last year.
Yep, begin at 10 a.m. and it'll be on Circle of Progress, Glasgow, Rice, and West Chestnut, and Prince Street.
Okay. And go forth the beer garden, Smith Family Plaza and Memorial Park for July 4th.
Yep, that's correct. So
Another repeat.
that is another repeat. Yep, and the beer garden will be 11:30 to 4 in that area, and then 5 to 9 in Memorial Park.
Okay, we'll approve that Monday. And then Go Forth Festival, street closure for July 4th, same thing.
Yep, correct. Same closure from 11 a.m. to 5.
Justin, when I think of Go Forth and the 4th of July parade, that's Pottstown at its absolute best. It's the best day of the year. And several years ago, there was no festival because of money, okay? And what I'm hoping that we do for festivals that bring uncounted thousands of people into this town, that we try to make it as easy for them as possible by reducing the fees to Go Forth so that they don't have to raise that extra money. And they can put it, if they had it, towards more good things for the town. And that goes as well for the, let's say, the Lowe's Car Show as well. Because there's a lot of people that come into town, and that requires a lot of logistics. And I understand it's a pain, but the alternative is that they don't have them. Whether it's Go Forth, which we saw, if it wasn't for two people, there would be no Go Forth. There would be no Pride full day in Pottstown, where we sit around and we say, isn't this a great town? And everybody who's there agrees that this is a great town to go to. So if anything that we can do to lessen the financial burden on these places who are not making any money off this and who are welcoming the town, if we can encourage that, that would be awesome.
Pottstown Patriotic 5K, or the rolling street closure.
Yes, so this will be Beach Adams, beginning at the Ricketts Center at 8 a.m. and then kind of roll through as and head to the east on Beach Price and then circle back on High York and then up Chestnut Street.
Okay. Questions? Nope, we'll add that. Harb for 21 North Hanover, it's in the attachment. And administratively approved, in a dozen places there. Upcoming board, the EAC, there's one 3-year term to expire August 10th, 2024. Land Bank, a 3-year term to expire April 9th, 2026. And Mr. Durr asked to be reappointed?
No,
No?
it's his wife.
Patty.
Oh,
Yep.
Patty Durr,
And
okay,
that'd be a new appointment if you would.
all right.
There. Yep.
That's okay. And for the Planning Commission, a 4-year term to expire February 1st, and Mr. Hilton asked for reappointment.
Okay.
Very good. And now, we'd like to hear from our citizens, see what comments they have.
All right, we'll skip Ron. First up, we have Jennifer Susky, 773 Beach Street, Pottstown.
Yeah. It's super awkward. Come up. It's okay.
So I just moved here 2 years ago, and I'm very interested in helping with the cleanup, the trash cleanup. That's my biggest concern, so I'll be reaching out to you. Can everybody hear me? No? Okay. So I moved here 2 years ago. I don't like the trash. You know, it's pretty bad. I walk my dog just about every day, and I pick up trash as I walk my dog, and the next day there's trash again, you know, and I just have a question, and I'm sorry if I don't, you know, obviously don't know this, that's why I'm here. Can you maybe like fine the people that rent these homes out, that continue to litter all the time? I know if it's like on the street, they really can't get fined, but if it's like in their yard, like for instance on B Street, there's like a factory, there's a church, there's like an old factory, like they painted the wall, I don't know what it is, an art infusion or something, but then there's like this little corner store there, and it's just like trash everywhere, and it's just such a sad sight to see. You know, it's like you own that business, take some pride and just clean up, like the Wawa, you know, you go into the Wawa and there's cigarette butts and just trash every day. It's sickening to me, and I live next door to, they rent out, I believe they do foster care, so I was really zoning in when he was talking about sober homes, but I'm wondering if like the foster care has the same type of rules that they have to apply by. It's just a bad situation. I had to call the police several times over the last 2 years because there's a lot of domestic violence that goes on there. So now there's repercussions with them not liking me. I own the home that I live in, and it's just trash every single day in front of their house, abandoned cars. I called and had the car finally removed. And then 2 days ago, I was walking my dog, picking up my trash, and there's a little girl yelling out her window, calling me names, and I'm just like, okay, I just didn't say anything, and you know, I'm in my 50s, you know, years ago, you walk right up to the door and say, your daughter said this. I'm afraid that there's going to be, you know, problems by me saying so. I just thought, I'm just going to go to a council meeting and ask you guys, you know, what my rights are as far as that goes, because that's just going to get increasingly worse, because they drink, there's domestic violence, there's fighting, and then just the trash is my biggest thing. So I'd like to help out clean up. I do it all the time, but I feel as though if it's in front of like a business or even in front of somebody's house that they rent, that's the least they can do is at least pick up the trash. You're renting, you're getting subsidized money, you know, just have some respect and clean up. So I don't know what you guys can think about that or do.
Sure.
Let me know.
Yeah, we'll have someone get back to you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Marlene Armato.
I like your shirt.
Thank you. I wore it for a purpose.
I know.
Good evening, Marlene Armato for Park Court. I came tonight seeking clarification on the vote taken by council limiting who's allowed to speak during public comment. So I appreciate on the front of the agenda where it explains taxpayer, resident or taxpayer. I guess the clarification we're seeking is around the taxpayer part. What tax is that based on? Is it per capita? Is it real estate? Is it like, what is it? If it's real estate, does that mean then that someone who owns a business but rents the space is not allowed to speak? And so we're trying to seek clarification on that. It seems like it's also means our clergy can't speak. It means our nonprofits can't speak. It means our school superintendent can't speak. It means that our state representative can't speak. So again, we're seeking clarification on what the tax is that it's based on and who's limited from speaking. So that's one thing. I also want to address an issue that has been brought before council over and over and over again, and that's our unhoused. And I appreciate the borough manager's presentation tonight that affirms what we've known all along, that Pottstown is seeking a lot of the burden, more of the burden than other places other than Norristown. But it still comes back to the people who are unhoused. And I know this community, I love this community, and I know that the people of this community can come up with a solution because it's happened before. Led by the NAACP, the Ricketts Center was saved. Led by the NAACP and others, the YMCA was saved. In 2019, we took 3 buses, plus people drove to Harrisburg to fight for equitable funding for our kids. In fact, when I was out there, we were out there standing on the rotunda steps, shoulder to shoulder. Someone not from Pottstown said to me, "Wow, look at that. Look at those people from Pottstown with all those different shirts on." We had NAACP Pottstown, we had YWCA, we had We Are Pottstown shirts, and they said all coming together for a common goal. And that's what we're missing in the whole unhoused situation, a common goal. What is it that we want? We certainly all are compassionate people and want our unhoused to be housed, to be fed, to get training, mentoring, whatever services they need. And the permanent shelter will be a step toward that. Because that permanent shelter is not permanent housing. It is a pathway to sustainable housing. So I know that we can do this. I know that we have bright people. I know that we have caring people. And so all I'm asking is that we work together. And this isn't incumbent on just council. This is everybody out there who complains and vents and frustration. Because I want us to be noted as a community who's caring and can solve problems, rather than what I read about us in USA Today in their January 30th article, titled, "Could Helping the Homeless Get You Criminally Charged? More Churches Get in Trouble." And it listed Houston, churches in Arizona, Oregon, Ohio, and Pottstown, Pennsylvania. We were in that article. And so I know for the community that I love, we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Hey, that was good, Marlene.
and lastly, we have Doug Slick.
Good evening, everyone. My custom is to start my comments with a positive slate, and to me, it was a no-brainer for this month. The World Atlas listed our town as one of the best towns in Pennsylvania to visit this year. Now, I didn't know about this website, so I looked them up. They serve 165 million readers at their website, dedicated to publishing resources in geography, sociology, demography, environment, economics, politics, and travel since 1994. They mention Memorial Park, Pottsgrove Manor, 18th century Georgian mansions, National Registry of Historic Places, the Carousel, and the Premium Outlets. A little outside of Pottstown, but close enough. So once again, good things do happen here, and they were recognized. Mr. Keller, thank you for that presentation. That was fantastic. I don't know if your offer extends to the public, but I would love a copy.
Sure.
That would be awesome, thank you. My comments tonight were actually going to dovetail very well with your presentation. Last month, The theme that I took home was we need to work together, as Mrs. Armato was saying, and several council members sort of talked about that toward the end of the meeting last month. And so I'd like to point out that I sent you all a summary of the Monco 30% Project Forum that took place last week. Sorry, I'm ringing. And so one of the things that happened there was a state representative, Napoleon Nelson, came to speak, among other speakers, and he talked about his legislation he's pushing in the State House called the CHAMP Act, like We Are the Champions. It stands for Combating Homelessness Across Municipalities. The legislation would require each municipality to develop a housing obligation plan so that it can offer shelter to their own residents should they have the need. The CHAMP Act does not mandate that municipalities build, maintain, or finance a shelter, but it does mandate that the municipality be aware of what number of residents might be in need of housing at any given time and have a plan to intervene when needed. And so we talked tonight about the concerns that we hear that Pottstown and Norristown are sheltering the majority of the burden. And this act would basically charge the surrounding communities to step up and have housing available for their residents. As Representative Nelson pointed out, currently there's a motivational disconnect. Those with the, these are his words, those with the responsibility don't have the authority, and those with the authority don't have the responsibility. And what he means by that is the county doesn't have the authority over municipal zoning to force any locality to build a shelter. But the municipality doesn't have the obligation to provide the housing. So his act is to sort of connect those two things, not in a punitive fashion, but just lets everybody step up and get it together. Mark Borse with the Access Services told us that evening that folks who lose their housing tend to stay in the same area where they've been living. Just because they weren't noticed before doesn't mean they came from another area. People only move when they have to in order to survive. The CHAMP Act allows for local residents to remain in the community where they have their support network, their doctors, their schools, their food pantries, and offer housing. Proof of 6 months residency would be required under his legislation. I've actually already encouraged Representative Cerisi to consider co-sponsoring the CHAMP Act. I think this is an excellent opportunity for our community to reach across the levels of government and speak to this representative. He's in the 154th, which is like Cheltenham, Jenkintown area. So if we could reach out to him, I'm sure his office and probably he personally would be happy to interact with us. He's a very dynamic and forward-thinking guy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay. And from our counselors, Counselor Proskal, anything?
Well, usually I talk about warm and fuzzy things, this discussion, but I definitely hear you on the trash. And particularly this month, it seemed to be particularly bad. I'm not faulting our L&I department. I mean, our borough's, 5.5, square miles, they're not be able to get to everything, but I'm very happy to hear that. I believe, Justin, our new online complaint system would be something that people could report.
Yeah, and talked to Public Works today, and we're going to get out and hopefully start sweeping here soon, in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, because usually, it's at least what I've seen, it's, I read the weather reports and they say like high winds, I always cringe, because I know, in my opinion, at least in the first ward, what contributes to most of the street trash is, well, sure, people throwing it, but not, the residents not throwing away their trash properly or in their bins. It'll be overflowing with just garbage, or if they, I believe there might have been an eviction or somebody moved out on my alley, and then there was just insane amounts of trash bags over there that were ripped through for people looking for scrap metal. And then I called that immediately. If you see anything like that, I really urge anybody that sees, you don't live there, just call it in. You call me, call the borough or do an online thing, because within hours it was just all over the entire alley. It's just pretty rough, and it's just call it in. Just don't assume somebody will.
Good. Counselor Vann.
I was going to say no, but I'm just going to make a comment on Ryan's comment. Just so our licensing and inspections gets a pat on the back. I had somebody reach out to me that has had a consistent trash problem, and it was with a store, so hopefully we can get you some help. And they thanked me for L&I reaching out to them and following up. We can't say that the problem's solved forever, But they felt good that it was addressed and somebody reached out to them and talked to them, and it wasn't through an email, it was a phone call, and it was personal, and she appreciated that. So, that's all
Good.
for tonight.
Vice President Libedinsky. Nothing. Counselor Lindsay.
So, where am I gonna start? The trash. There has been constituents coming to council meetings about the trash, and that's one of the reasons why it was on my mind to try to figure out what can we do as a village, because, you know, I'm all about the village. And we have a tendency to get away from that village atmosphere. With this, hopefully, we can, if we get a street, we can encourage folks to come out and take pride in their area. At least that's what I'm gonna do, because I'm going to have a street that I'm going to take care of. And I'm going to have the people who live there help me take care of their street. It's Black History Month, and I want to share with you one of my favorite Black historian, and that's Harriet Tubman. And why she's my favorite. And why? Because you have to think about the era that she lived in. And she was a slave. And she knew in her heart that this was wrong. And despite all the negativity, all the people saying, no, you can't, it's been like this and it's always been like this. But in her heart, she was like, this is not right. So she had faith. She tried it a couple times. She was like, oh no, I'm scared. Because she heard the people telling her, no, you can't do that. You can't be free. But in her heart, she knew she was supposed to be free. Can't read, can't write, can't swim, and she made it because she had faith. She had that faith, and that's how I am with Pottstown, because I have faith. Like Marlene said, I know how we are here. I know the love that we have for these kids, for our community. I know that. And all you need is a mustard seed. I forgot to bring my mustard seeds, but I know I forgot, and I found them in them. Even cleaned out the. Anyway, I know we have this. We come together for the cemetery to do the cleanup. We come together for Juneteenth. We come together for the 4th. We can come together to clean up the streets and for our unhoused, our homeless, our vulnerable. I don't know. There's a couple names, and I'm not sure which one to say, but I know we can do this because we are Pottstown. It has it right there on Marlene's shirt. So that's one of my things, and I wanted to let you know how her faith. Can you imagine back then? Her faith? Come on. It was a struggle. But she had faith, and she did it. Came back and freed more people. So when you think you can't do stuff, think about Harriet Tubman's struggle when she was when she knew things wasn't right. And she freed herself, and she freed others. So that's the end of my little tidbit. And my Black History. Happy Black History Month, everybody.
Counselor Menastra, comment?
Well, I'd like to agree with my friend here, okay, because there isn't anything that we can't do. Some things we shouldn't. No. But anyway, I would like to say thank you to our new borough manager, who has unbridled energy now, and no, you have.
Saying you knew now. You knew now.
Yes, I am saying that, I don't know, I haven't, this is,
Isn't that good, though?
this report that you did showed,
He has
it
time now.
was spectacular, you did
He
a
has time.
wonderful job. And then, on top of that, we have the Adopt a Street program, and you know why? Because this dude's over here.
That's what I'm
okay?
talking about.
Absolutely.
That's what
And he's helping this guy.
teamwork make the dream
Okay.
work.
So,
That's right. Teamwork.
I don't know why we didn't have this dude over here.
Justin trying to think he can,
And for so
he can
long.
drive the boat
But
by
we
himself.
obviously needed him. We obviously needed him.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes. You take whatever credit you want. Lisa Bannon gets it. But,
Hey, I took grief for it, though.
okay. But yeah, no, I really appreciate the professionalism and the solving of the problems and the attempts. Thanks, guys. Cool.
Thank you. Truly
I'm
a
done.
team effort.
It is. Teamwork make the dream work.
Be careful, they'll ask for raises.
Hey, hey,
That's enough.
hey, hey.
Counselor Kirkland, anything?
I don't talk much, but it's something that's been bothering me lately. And it's like random thoughts, so forgive me if it sounds off the wall at times. But I really need to get off Facebook. Okay. Because one thing that bothers me when I read articles, and then you have the comments after the articles, you know, and I'm coming more and more aware of Black issues, African American issues, and things like that. And because I was raised in an all white community. Okay, my family was the only Black people in the school district, and you know I was first grade through 12th grade, all you know. And I remember when I was about to come to Philadelphia to go to college, I couldn't wait to get to Philadelphia, to be around my people. I couldn't wait. I was like, oh man, be able to date Black women, be able to, just know Black people and Black friends. I was so excited to come to Philadelphia. And it really didn't disappoint me. I met a lot of good friends still, a lot of good friends and everything. But lately, and this is just my opinion, you don't have to share it. But lately, it just seems like there's such a warfare against Black people. To me, it seems like. When you read these comments, I mean, the hateful nature in these comments, and it stirs up stuff in me that I don't want to feel towards people. Like I said, I grew up in a white community, and I have so many friends, and it stirs up feelings in me that I don't like feeling. Okay. And I remember even not too long ago, a white evangelical Christian told me that racism doesn't exist anymore. Okay. And she said that we're the racist ones because we're the ones that keep bringing it up, dividing the country. We're dividing the country because we bring it up. Okay. Then you see, political party just openly now. They're not even trying to hide it. Openly, just getting rid of Black history in schools. Openly, keeping people from voting. It's bold now. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Okay, and and to me, I just wish people could understand. The way I see it is that we built this country. Yeah, it was years and years ago, but the thing is, generational money just down and down and down. We built this country, okay? Because back in those days, we supplied cotton to the world, okay? And that cotton came up from Black backs, okay? We supplied cotton to the world, and that created the wealth in this country that made it what it is today. That same wealth made this country what it is today. Forget the 400 years ago, whatever it is. that same wealth made this country what it is today. Okay? Yeah, presidential candidates. This country was never racist. You know, I mean, it just seems like something that's planned. It seems like, because you hear it more now from a lot of people. So I'm just saying, read up, and see what we've made, the contributions we've made to this country. People just don't know, and the way they're trying to get rid of, Black history in this country, people will never know. They never will know. And that's the intent. That's the intent, for them to never know. Okay, so it's just random thoughts. I'm proud of Black History Month, and I'm hoping people, non-Black people, will take time to see and appreciate what Black people have done for this country. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks.
Those are good. Okay, by the numbers, it is my time to reappoint people to committees. And because of the wonderful job they all did in the past year, I'll make a blanket reappointment of all the people to the committees you've been proudly serving on. And thank you for your work on those committees. Can't think of anything else to add other than what a presentation.
Thank you.
That was phenomenal. That's all for me. Meeting adjourned.